name is Elise. I'm 28, and at that moment, my hands were covered in baby powder while I tried to secure a fresh diaper on my 8-month-old niece, Sophie. I remember the faint sound of cartoons playing in the background and the steady hum of the ceiling fan above us. It was one of those afternoons where nothing seemed out of place until my phone dinged. I almost ignored it, but that tone, that familiar chime pulled my attention. I reached over, wiped my fingers on a towel, and picked it up. It was a text from my mom. "We're finally doing it, Barcelona. Here we come." I froze. No apology, no explanation, no warning. Just a casual announcement that the people who raised me, the same people who promised to come back for Sophie in a few days, had left the country. I stared at the screen, rereading the words over and over like they might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. But they didn't. They stayed the same, cold and final. For a second, the world went quiet. Sophie kicked her legs and cooed, smiling up at me, completely unaware that her life, our lives, had just changed forever. Before we dive into this story, tell us where in the world you're watching from and what time it is right now. Someone near you might be watching too. And don't forget to subscribe to support and appreciate the work we do on this channel. I forced a shaky smile and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Good thing I moved that money yesterday." That single sentence wasn't just a comfort, it was the truth. I had felt something off for weeks. My parents had been distant, whispering late at night, locking the study door when they thought I wasn't paying attention. They had been planning something, and though I didn't know what it was, I knew it wasn't good. So, I made sure to protect what was mine, and what was meant for Sophie. Still, it hurt. Not the money, not even the leaving. It was the way they did it without a goodbye, without trust. As if I didn't deserve a reason. I sat on the couch, holding my phone, my hands trembling. My first instinct was to call my mom, but the call didn't even ring. Straight to voicemail. I tried Dad next, same thing. Then I checked their social media. Their last post? A photo of them at the airport with the caption, "New chapter, new beginnings." I laughed. A hollow, angry sound. New beginnings for them, chaos for me. Sophie started fussing, her soft cries pulling me back to reality. I picked her up and held her against my chest. Her warmth, her tiny heartbeat, grounded me. She didn't choose this. None of it was her fault. I walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street below. It was late afternoon, sunlight spilling across the floorboards, but everything felt different. Empty. That's when it hit me. They weren't coming back. Not tomorrow, not next week, maybe not ever. They had left me here with a baby, a pile of unpaid bills, and silence, and for a brief, dangerous second, I felt something dark, not sadness, not fear, but resolve. I whispered it softly to myself. "Fine. You wanted freedom? You've got it, but so do I." That day, I promised myself I wouldn't chase after them. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't be the child waiting for her parents to come home anymore. They had chosen to walk away. I would choose to stand. And as I rocked Sophie to sleep that night, one thought wouldn't leave my mind. They thought they left me powerless, but they had no idea what I was capable of. That was the moment my story, our story, really began. 3 days before that text, everything still looked normal. Or at least, it pretended to. Mom had called me in her usual cheerful tone, the one she used when she was hiding something. "Sweetheart," she said, "can you watch Sophie for a few days? Your sister's drowning in work, and your dad and I just need a little break." A little break, that's what she called it. I remember hesitating, one hand gripping the phone tighter. "A few days? Where are you going?" "Oh, just somewhere sunny," she said, laughing like it was no big deal. "Don't worry, we'll be back before you know it." She always said that, "don't worry," and every time, I worried anyway. Still, I agreed, because saying no to my mom was like yelling into the wind. She did what she wanted, when she wanted. I told myself it was temporary. Just a few nights. I'd watch the baby, she'd get her rest, and life would roll on. That night after Sophie fell asleep, I came home from the store to find something strange. The living room felt emptier. The photos on the wall were still there, but something was missing, something small but important. My parents' suitcases. I checked the closet. Gone. The hallway, their coats missing. Dad's shoes? Gone too. It felt like someone had vacuumed their presence out of the house. I called out, "Mom?" Nothing. "Dad?" Silence. I pulled out my phone. No missed calls, no texts, just quiet. Then I saw it, a single piece of paper on the counter. No envelope, no emotion. Just a quick note in Mom's handwriting. "Don't worry, we'll send postcards." That was it. No thank you, no we love you, no explanation for leaving their 8-month-old granddaughter behind. Just postcards. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the note until the words blurred. My stomach turned cold. I didn't know if I wanted to cry, scream, or laugh at how absurd it was. They didn't even ask if I could handle it. They didn't care if I was ready. Would you have done the same for family or walked away? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe if you're still watching, because it's about to get heavier. They just left. I remember walking into Sophie's nursery, watching her sleep peacefully in her crib, her small hand resting against her cheek. I whispered, "They're not coming back, are they?" Of course. She didn't answer. But something inside me did, a quiet voice, almost too small to hear. "You already know the truth." I stayed up all night, pacing, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was a mix-up. Maybe they'd text in the morning. But the morning came and went. My calls went straight to voicemail. Their room stayed empty. Their car was gone. By noon, I stopped pretending. I packed Sophie's diaper bag, made a bottle, and sat on the edge of my bed. I could feel the betrayal sinking deeper, not sharp anymore, just heavy. They didn't just leave a baby. They left me. And that was the moment everything flipped. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was something else, something alive, quiet, determined. I wasn't going to be their doormat anymore. As I looked down at Sophie's tiny face, I made a promise. "I don't know how we're going to do this," I whispered, "but I swear, you'll never feel abandoned, not the way they made me feel tonight." That was 3 days before the text, 3 days before they made their escape sound like a vacation. 3 days before I decided I'd stop being the daughter who waited and start being the woman who remembered. And I remembered everything. The morning after that text, I called my sister. Not to ask for help, I knew she couldn't give it, but because she deserved to know. Olivia answered on the third ring, her voice strained, like she hadn't slept in days. "Elise, can this wait? I'm in between shifts." Her words came fast, tired. I could hear hospital monitors in the background, people rushing, doors slamming. "It can't wait," I said quietly. "It's about Sophie." That stopped her. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's fine," I said. "But Mom and Dad aren't here." There was a pause, a sharp inhale. "What do you mean? They're not there?" I took a breath. "They left. For Barcelona." Another silence, longer this time. I could almost hear her heart sink through the phone. Then, softly, she said, No, they wouldn't do that. They can't." I wish I was joking. I heard her footsteps quicken. "Elise, please tell me you're lying. Please." I didn't respond. I just sent her a photo, the text message and the note on the counter. When she saw it, she broke. Her breathing turned shaky. "They left my baby? My baby Elise?" "Yes," I whispered. "They did." There was a long, aching silence. Then came the sound of her crying, raw, unfiltered. Not the soft kind. The kind that rips through your chest. "Elise, I can't leave the hospital," she said between sobs. "If I walk out, I'll lose my position. I'm already hanging by a thread here." "I know," I said gently. "Then don't. Stay. I've got her." She didn't believe me at first. "You can't do this alone. You're working too. You have bills." "Olivia," I cut in, my tone firm but calm. "You take care of everyone at that hospital. Let me take care of us." The line went quiet again. Then, softly, she whispered, "You shouldn't have to." "I know," I said, "but I will." She broke again, not just from exhaustion but from guilt. They left her like she didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. Like you didn't. I closed my eyes, fighting the lump in my throat. We matter to each other. That's enough. There it was, the unspoken truth between us. We'd both spent our whole lives trying to earn love from people who only gave it when it was convenient. And now, with one selfish decision, they'd reminded us where we stood. But Olivia's breaking point wasn't weakness. It was a release, the sound of someone realizing they didn't have to pretend anymore. Before we hung up, she said something that stuck with, "Promise me, Elise. Promise me you won't let them walk back in like nothing happened." "I promise," I said, and I meant it. After that call, I sat on the floor beside Sophie's crib, my phone still warm in my hand. She was awake now, her little eyes blinking up at me, waiting for me to smile. So I did, even though every part of me wanted to cry. I fed her, changed her, rocked her, and while I did, I realized something. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about ownership, of my choices, of my peace, of the little girl who had no one else. That night, as Sophie finally drifted off, I whispered into the quiet room, "We'll be okay." And for the first time in a long time, I believed myself. Olivia had hit her breaking point. But me? I was just getting started. The days that followed blurred together a slow rhythm of bottles, burp cloths, and sleepless nights. Morning sunlight would sneak through the curtains, painting golden lines across the couch where I napped with Sophie on my chest. I used to think peace meant silence, but now, peace was her soft breathing. At first, I counted every hour, every cry, every diaper, every time I almost broke, but slowly, something shifted. The exhaustion didn't feel like punishment anymore, it felt like purpose. I learned to make bottles with one hand, to bounce her with my knee while replying to work emails, to sleep in 5-minute naps and still smile in the morning. Some nights, I'd sit on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m., feeding her under the dull fridge light. She'd grab my finger with her tiny hand, her eyes half closed. And in those quiet moments, I realized she didn't care about the chaos. She just needed me to stay. And so I did. Each day started with a new test. The washing machine broke. The electricity bill came due. My freelance clients complained I was less available. I wanted to scream, but Sophie would laugh, this pure, belly-deep giggle that melted everything. Her laughter saved me. It wasn't the life I planned, but it was the one I was building, one lullaby at a time. A month passed, then 2. The pain started to dull, replaced by a kind of stubborn pride. I didn't need anyone's permission to be strong. I got better at cooking with her strapped to my chest. I made a routine morning walks, story time, nap time, work hours. Each day had a rhythm, a heartbeat. Sometimes I'd glance at the framed photo on the wall, the last one we ever took as a family. I stopped feeling sad when I saw it. Now, I just felt clear. I wasn't waiting for their apology anymore. By the end of the 3rd month, the house no longer echoed. It lived again, filled with Sophie's babbles, the clatter of dishes, the sound of cartoons. The quiet wasn't loneliness anymore. It was mine. But peace never lasts long in stories like this, does it? It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone buzzed again. I was in the middle of cleaning up spilled formula, humming to keep Sophie calm. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name. Mom. My heart stuttered. I hadn't heard from her since the day they left. My thumb hovered over the screen before I finally opened the message. "Hey, sweetheart, can you do us a small favor?" I blinked. A small favor? Another message came in right after. "Our hotel card got declined. Could you send a quick transfer? Just until the bank sorts it out." I stared at the screen, a mix of shock and disgust bubbling up inside me. After all the silence, after leaving me to raise their grandchild, that was her first message? Not "How's Sophie?" Not "Are you okay?" Money? That's all they wanted? Sophie started fussing in her playpen, sensing my tension. I picked her up, held her close, and took a deep breath. Then I typed my reply. "No, you said you wanted a new start. Make it work." Seconds later, her guilt-laced response came. "Don't be cruel, Elise. We raised you." I didn't even hesitate. My thumbs moved on their own. "You raised yourselves. I raised Olivia." I hit send, locked the screen, and sat in silence. For the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt power. That text wasn't just a response, it was a declaration. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I was the storm they created, and I'd just learned how to breathe inside it. When I hit send, my heart didn't race. It should have. I'd just told my mother no for the first time in my life, but instead, I felt calm, cold, even, like I'd finally shut a door that had been open too long. The message sat there, unread, for almost an hour. I fed Sophie, cleaned up her toys, even managed a small smile when she started babbling her first clear, "Mama." Then my phone buzzed again. "Don't be cruel, Elise. We raised you." Those words hit like a ghost, not because they hurt, but because they were so familiar. That same guilt they'd used all my life, dressed up as love. I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back without thinking. "You raised yourselves. I raised Olivia." I hit send before I could second guess it. And that was it. Power. Clean and quiet. For the first time, they knew I wasn't the daughter they could manipulate with a sad voice and an apology. I was done being the family glue. Still, The silence that followed was heavy. Every few minutes, I'd glance at my phone, half expecting another message, a fight, a threat, something. But it never came. Instead, life went on. Sophie learned to crawl that week. I filmed her tiny victory, clapping through tears as she dragged herself across the rug with wild determination. I posted the clip privately, just for Olivia. She replied with 3 words, "You're doing amazing." That meant more than anything Mom could have said. But peace is fragile. It never arrives alone, it always brings its shadow. 2 nights later, a notification pinged at midnight. I reached for my phone, half asleep. It wasn't Mom this time. It was Dad. "Elise, I think you're overreacting. You know your mother. She gets emotional. Let's talk about this like adults." I sat up, the darkness pressing around me. "Overreacting?" I whispered out loud. I wanted to laugh, but anger took its place. They left an infant behind, skipped the country, and I was overreacting? I typed back slowly, each word deliberate, is greater than, you don't abandon a child and call it emotional. You call it what it is, selfish. He didn't reply. The next day, I got another message from Mom. This one was shorter, colder. "We're disappointed in you. You've become bitter." That one stung not because it was true, but because it was close. I was bitter. But bitterness wasn't weakness. It was memory. It was truth that refused to stay buried. Later that night, while rocking Sophie to sleep, I whispered softly to her, "They can't hurt us anymore, baby girl." Her eyelids fluttered shut, and I realized I meant every word. That's when the thought hit me sharp, electric. They'd underestimated me my whole life. They thought kindness meant obedience. They thought silence meant surrender. They had no idea I was capable of protecting myself, protecting us. And while they drank wine in Barcelona, pretending they were free, I was here building something real out of the wreckage they left behind. A home, a rhythm, a voice. By the time I laid Sophie down, I knew this was just the beginning. I'd taken their betrayal and turned it into fuel. And deep down, I knew something else too. They wouldn't stay quiet forever. People like them never do. They'd come back one day, all smiles and excuses, trying to reclaim what they abandoned. But next time, I wouldn't just be ready, I'd be waiting. Because the next text wouldn't find the same Elise. It would find the woman they created when they walked away. A week passed after that last message. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally gotten the message. But peace in my family never lasts long. It always comes with strings. It started one Friday morning. I was spoon-feeding Sophie mashed bananas when my phone rang. Olivia's name flashed across the screen. Her voice was shaky before I even said hello. "Elise, what did you do?" My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "I just got a message from Mom and Dad. They said you froze the accounts." There it was, the twist I'd been expecting. I sighed. "I didn't freeze anything. I just moved my savings before they could drain it. You know how Dad loves his family loans that never get paid back." Olivia exhaled hard through the phone. "They said you're trying to punish them." "Punish them? Olivia, they left the country and abandoned your baby. How are they the victims?" She didn't answer right away. I could hear the noise of the hospital behind her, pages turning, machines beeping, lives moving on while ours stayed stuck in this storm. "Elise, they're still our parents," she finally said. I closed my eyes. "No, Liv. They were our parents. Now they're 2 adults who made a choice. And we're the ones cleaning it up." She went quiet again, her silence saying what she didn't want to admit. She knew I was right. But guilt is a powerful drug. Our parents had mastered how to use it, guilt dressed as love, manipulation disguised as care. That afternoon, I got a new text, this time from Mom. "We spoke to Olivia. She's reasonable, not like you." That one made my blood boil. I called her instantly. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. So I recorded a voice message. Calm, controlled, dangerous in its quiet. "You left your granddaughter. You left your daughters. You left everything. And now you're mad because we stopped letting you use us? You don't get to call that unreasonable. You call that freedom." I sent it and stared at my reflection in the black screen. For the first time, I didn't look like the daughter trying to please anyone. I looked like someone who had survived them. That night, Olivia called again. Her voice was softer now, guilt-soaked but trembling. I told them to stop contacting me. "I can't do this in between surgeries." "I know," I said. "You don't have to. I'll handle it." There was a pause, then she whispered, "You always do." Those 3 words hit deep, because it was true. I always handled it. Since we were kids, I'd been the one who patched the cracks, covered the lies, held the house together while they played pretend. But this time, I wasn't fixing anything. I was letting it fall apart and watching who tried to crawl out of the rubble. Later that night, while Sophie slept, I got one final text from Dad. "You're tearing this family apart." I typed back, "No, I'm finally refusing to be the glue." Then I turned my phone off. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was peaceful. The war had begun, yes, but I wasn't afraid of it. I'd already survived worse, a lifetime of being unseen. Now, every message they sent only proved one thing: they didn't leave me behind. I left them. And this time, I wasn't going back. It was past midnight when the first knock came. Soft, hesitant, like whoever stood on the other side wasn't sure they wanted to be there. I froze halfway through, folding Sophie's tiny pajamas. The baby monitor crackled faintly. Sophie was asleep, her slow breathing filling the room with the kind of peace I hadn't felt in weeks. Another knock, louder this time. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over 911, and tiptoed to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a shadow, a woman, small frame, hood pulled low. My heart started racing. "Elise?" A whisper came. I recognized the voice. Instantly. Olivia. I flung the door open, and there she was, hair damp, eyes red, jacket half-zipped, shivering from cold or guilt, or both. "Liv? What are you doing here? It's almost 1 a.m. She stepped in, shutting the door behind her, eyes darting around like she was afraid someone had followed her. I didn't know where else to go. I guided her to the couch, grabbing a blanket. "Start talking." She sank into the cushions, gripping the fabric like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "They called me again. Mom and Dad. They're in trouble, Elise. Real trouble." I stared at her. "Define real trouble." "They maxed out everything: credit cards, business accounts. They owe people. And those people are looking for them." I blinked, trying to process. "You mean dangerous people?" She nodded. "They told me someone came to their hotel in Barcelona, pounded on the door, threatened them. They're terrified." For a long second, the room was silent except for the hum of the fridge. Then I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind that comes when the absurd finally turns tragic. "So let me get this straight. They abandoned us, emptied the accounts, and now they want us to save them?" "Elise, no, Olivia. I'm done being their rescue plan. I have Sophie. I have a life. I'm not flying halfway across the world to fix the mess they built." Tears welled in her eyes. "They're still our parents." I shook my head. "They stopped being our parents the moment they chose escape over responsibility." She looked down. "Then what do we do?" I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "We do nothing. For once in our lives, we let them feel what abandonment tastes like." Olivia's silence said she wanted to argue, but deep down she knew I was right. The room fell quiet again, the kind of quiet that feels like the calm before something breaks. Suddenly, Sophie's cry sliced through the silence. I rushed to her crib, gently rocking her back to sleep. When I turned back, Olivia was scrolling through her phone. Her face had gone pale. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. "A message from an unknown number. Is greater than, 'We know where your sister lives. Tell your parents to pay up.'" The room went cold. My pulse spiked, but I forced myself to stay still. "Delete it," I whispered. "Elise, delete it now." She hesitated, then did. I took her phone, turned it off, and set it face down on the table. We didn't say another word for a long time. But as I lay awake that night, every creak of the house felt louder. Every car outside sounded like it was slowing down for too long. They'd run from their mistakes, and now, those mistakes were coming to my door. I didn't know what was next, but I knew one thing for sure. If they came for me and Sophie, I wouldn't run. I'd fight. Morning light spilled through the curtains like nothing had changed, but I knew better. I hadn't slept. Every sound outside had me on edge, a car door slamming, footsteps on the pavement, the mailman's knock. When the real knock came, it wasn't gentle this time. It was confident, rhythmic, like someone who believed they still owned the place. I froze halfway through feeding Sophie. Olivia looked up from her coffee. "You expecting anyone?" I shook my head slowly. "No." Another knock. Louder. I stood, heart pounding. "Stay here," I whispered. setting the bottle down and walking to the door. I didn't even need to check the peephole this time. I felt it. The arrogance in that knock. The entitlement. I opened the door and there they were. My parents. Sunburned, smiling, dressed in bright clothes that reeked of money they didn't have. Dad held sunglasses in his hand. Mom's hair was perfectly done, like she'd stepped out of a resort photo shoot. "Elise," Mom said, arms outstretched. "Surprise, we're home." For a moment, my brain went blank. Then it snapped. "You're home?" I repeated, my voice low. "You mean the home you abandoned?" Mom blinked, feigning confusion. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic, we just needed time away." Dad stepped forward, smile tight. "Where's Sophie?" "We'll take her now." I laughed. It wasn't out of humor. It was disbelief. "Take her? You left her." Mom's face hardened. "We trusted you. We assumed you'd handle things. That's what you're good at, right? Handling things?" I folded my arms. "Handling your mess, you mean?" Dad's smile vanished. "We know about the accounts, Elise. You froze them. You took what wasn't yours." I met his eyes, steady. "You mean the money I earned? The savings I built while you were pretending to be business owners? That money?" Mom's tone sharpened. "We raised you better than this." I took a step closer. "You raised yourselves. I raised Olivia. I'm raising your granddaughter." For a second, no one spoke. The air between us pulsed with years of unspoken anger. Then Mom's voice cracked like a whip. "You don't talk to me that way." "Then maybe you should have stayed to teach me better." Dad's jaw clenched. "We'll get lawyers involved." Something in me finally broke, not from fear, but from clarity. "Do it," I said. "But make sure you mention in the paperwork that you left a baby without food or formula for 3 days while you sipped sangria in Barcelona." Their expressions faltered. "You're bluffing," Mom hissed. I held up my phone. "Try me. Every message you sent, every transaction you made, backed up and time-stamped. You start a war, I'll finish it." For the first time, they didn't have words. Dad looked at Mom, then at me. His voice softened, almost pitiful. "You've changed." I nodded. I had to. He turned, muttering something under his breath, and started down the steps. Mom lingered, her eyes scanning my face for any weakness. She found none. "Don't shut us out, Elise," she said finally. "We're still family." I closed the door slowly, the latch clicking like a full stop. "Not anymore." Silence filled the house. Then Sophie giggled from her high chair, and it was the only sound that mattered. Olivia exhaled. "You think they'll come back?" I looked at the door. They already did, and next time, they'll regret it. Because this time, I wasn't just the daughter cleaning up their chaos. I was the storm they created, and I was finally done being quiet. The calm didn't last long. It never does. 3 mornings later, while I was spoon-feeding Sophie mashed bananas, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar email notification. I wiped my hands, half expecting another scam message, but the subject line froze me. "Is greater than RE. Financial misappropriation. Kane Family Holdings." My last name. My parents' old business. My stomach sank. I opened it. A lawyer, someone representing my parents, claimed I had illegally transferred funds and denied rightful access to shared family accounts. Attached were scanned forms, legal jargon, even a demand for repayment within 10 days. I laughed, the kind that sounds like disbelief scraping against anger. Olivia, sitting across from me, looked up from her laptop. "What's wrong?" I turned the screen toward her. "They actually did it." Her eyes widened. "They got a lawyer?" "Apparently." I stood, pacing the kitchen. "They're calling it misappropriation. Like I robbed them." She ran a hand through her hair. "You moved your own savings. You didn't take a dime of theirs." "Exactly." I stopped pacing. "But they don't care about truth. They care about control." For a few seconds, the only sound was Sophie babbling to her toys. Then I said, quietly, "I'm not playing defense anymore." That night when Sophie finally slept, I pulled out everything: receipts, bank statements, contracts, timestamps, every transfer, every proof. I didn't need a lawyer yet. I needed precision. I opened a new email draft and began to type, each word like a hammer strike. "To whom it may concern, your client's claims are both false and defamatory. The funds in question were solely deposited by me into my personal accounts years prior to their involvement. Documentation attached." Then, before signing off, I added one final paragraph: calm, surgical, devastating, is greater than. Please also note the attached child abandonment report, including the dates, witness statements, and hospital correspondence regarding the 8-month-old minor left in my care without consent. I reread the email twice. Not a single typo. Not a single ounce of hesitation. Then I hit send. The next morning felt different. The air was lighter, sharper, like the quiet before a thunderstorm you actually want to see coming. At noon, Olivia called from the hospital. "Did you hear back?" "Not yet," I said, smiling, "but I will." An hour later, it came. A short, awkward reply. "Your response has been received. We'll be in touch. No threats. No follow-up documents. Just silence, the kind that screams retreat." Olivia texted me later that night. "You think they realized what you did?" I typed back, "No, they realized who I became." For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No nightmares, no guilt. Just peace, the kind that doesn't need permission. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. But instead of feeling afraid, I felt prepared. I'd faced the worst version of my parents and lived through it. I'd learned something they'd never taught me: how to protect peace like it's gold. Every knock, every phone buzz used to make my chest tighten. Now, it just reminded me of something simple. I wasn't the weak link anymore. I was the one holding everything together. That Friday, I opened my email again. Nothing new. I smiled and looked at Sophie, who was busy pulling at her toy giraffe's ear. "You know," I said softly, "your grandma and grandpa thought they could scare me." She looked up, grinning with a single tooth. "But they forgot," I whispered. "You can't threaten someone who has nothing left to lose." Sophie squealed, like she understood. I picked her up, resting her tiny head on my shoulder. "They tried to bury me," I murmured, "but they didn't know I was the seed." And for the first time, I felt the kind of power my parents had always chased, except mine wasn't built on fear or money. It was built on truth. And truth, once you set it free, doesn't need revenge. 6 months later, the chaos had melted into something softer, a rhythm I never expected to love. Mornings started with Sophie's laughter echoing through the kitchen, her little hands slapping the high chair tray, demanding her favorite cereal. The sunlight hit her curls just right, turning them gold. Olivia, on her rare day off from residency, sat across from me recording Sophie on her phone. "Say, Mama," she teased, waving the toy giraffe. Sophie giggled, mouth full of mush. "Baba." We both laughed until we cried. It was the first time in a long time that everything felt light. After the storm, there was paperwork investigations, statements, even awkward phone calls with lawyers who couldn't understand why I didn't want to press for full restitution. I didn't want money. I wanted closure. When the family lawyer finally called to say, "Your parents dropped their claim," I just said, "Good," and hung up. No victory speech, no gloating, just quiet relief. They hadn't replied to my last email, the one with the abandonment report. I knew they wouldn't. You can't argue with proof. A few weeks later, a plain white envelope arrived. No return address. I tore it open and found a postcard. Barcelona. A photo of a cathedral. 2 short sentences. "We're sorry. We're healing." No names. No signatures. Just those words. I read it twice, then folded it and tucked it in Sophie's baby book. Not as forgiveness, but as evidence that even people who run eventually look back. That night, after putting Sophie to bed, I stepped outside onto the porch. The air was cool, the kind that makes you feel like maybe you survived something bigger than yourself. Olivia joined me, a mug of tea in her hands. "You think they meant it?" she asked. "The apology?" I stared at the stars. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter anymore," she nodded. "You did good, Elise. I just did what they wouldn't." We stood in silence for a moment, 2 sisters who had grown up in the same house but were finally learning what home really meant. The next morning, I took Sophie to the park. She wobbled on her tiny legs, taking a few unsure steps on the grass. I held my breath, camera ready. 1, 2, 3 steps. She stumbled, then looked back at me with wide eyes, waiting to see if I'd catch her or let her try again. I smiled. "You've got this, baby girl." And she did. Olivia clapped behind me, laughing through tears. "She did it!" Sophie squealed and fell into my arms, both of us laughing like the world had no more sharp edges left. Later, sitting on the park bench, I turned the camera to face me. Not for vanity, for legacy, for truth. "If you've ever had to protect someone you love," I said quietly, looking straight into the lens, From the people who were supposed to love you first. I paused, feeling the weight of it settle. The wind tugged at my hair. Sophie's giggle filled the background. Then you already know what strength feels like. It's not loud. It's not pretty. It's quiet. It's doing the right thing, even when no one claps for you. I took a breath, letting the silence stretch just long enough for the viewer to feel it. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, I said softly, and may your peace never come at the price of betrayal. I ended the recording and watched Sophie chase after a butterfly, her tiny hands reaching toward the sky. That's when I realized the truth healing isn't about forgetting what broke you. It's about learning to love the sound of your own laughter again. And as the sun dipped low, painting everything in gold, I finally did. If this story touched you, subscribe for more real stories that stay with you. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one.